Welcome to Mind Body Besties, your weekly reset with real talk, a little laughter, and the kind of honest conversations you'd have with your closest friend. I'm Caty, a therapist.
And I'm Rachel, a naturopathic doctor. We're here to share the personal stories, struggles, and wins that have shaped our own health and happiness. This isn't a lecture, it's a safe space to slow down, connect, and feel a little more human again. So grab your coffee, get cozy, and let's reset together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mind Body Besties. Today, you've just got me, just Caty. Rachel is sick, so we are going to see how good I am at talking to myself. So today, I want to talk about chiropractic care and how much chiropractors can actually do. It's a lot more than just cracking people's backs and helping them with back pain or shoulder pain or whatever. They do that, but chiropractors can do a lot more than I even knew. So I'm going to speak from personal experience here. Obviously, I'm not a chiropractor, but I can give my personal experience. So I had never actually seen a chiropractor until, I want to say 2020. And basically, long story short, I was having a lot of stomach pain and I felt like I was having issues digesting things. My stomach just kind of always hurt. No matter what I ate, it would hurt. And I had gone to the doctor and they're like, "You're fine. Nothing's wrong with you." I had gotten some blood work done. It was all fine. And so basically, conventional medicine was like, "Yeah, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you." And I was like, no, I'm not fine. I feel like crap every day. So I'm going to get this figured out. So, I went to the old Google and I'm like, holistic health practitioners in my area, blah, blah, blah. And someone came up. His name was Dr. Quinn. We're actually going to have him on the podcast, I think. And he was a chiropractor. And I was like, how on earth is this guy going to help me? He's a chiropractor. Like, is he going to crack my back and then my stomach is going to stop hurting? So I looked into his website and I was like, oh, okay. He does a bunch of holistic stuff too. He does supplements. He does nutrition. He does blood work. He does a whole bunch of stuff. So I was like, okay, let's give it a try. And I remember being like super skeptical of whether or not it would help, but no one else had helped me. So I was like, whatever. So I went in and he took, my whole history, like my entire life. Like, have you ever had this? Have you ever had that? Has this ever happened? Do you have any trauma? What illnesses have your family members had? And it was the most thorough assessment that I had ever gotten. And then what did he do? He did something where he was measuring heart rate or electromagnetic pulses. I don't even know. Basically, he put some water on my wrist and clamped this machine onto my wrist, and that gave him some information. And then he said, okay, now we're going to do muscle testing. And I said, okay, what is that? And basically he said, so our bodies know when we need something and when we don't need something. And every muscle is connected to an organ in your body. And so if your body doesn't like something, the muscle will be weaker. If it does like something, it'll be stronger. It could have been the reverse of that. I don't remember. But basically, I'm going to put pressure on these muscles and I'll know if your body needs this or doesn't. And I was just like, okay, this sounds weird. So he had me lay down on a table and I didn't know what he was looking for or what he was asking, but he had me lay down flat on my back, put my right arm up in the air, and he would press down on it. And sometimes it was really easy for him to move my arm down and sometimes it wasn't. And again, I had no idea what he was asking. And then he started getting out these little vials of food, like dried food. And I was like, what is this guy doing? This is so weird. And he would have me hold on to each of these vials. And then he did the same thing. And there were supplements or other substances in the vials. And I thought, this is very weird, but whatever. So at the end of all of it, he said, okay, you have an issue with your gallbladder. Your gallbladder is sluggish and we need to, one, put you on these supplements, all super weird supplements I had never heard of. And then also, while your gallbladder is healing, we need to take out these foods. And it was like it was a bunch of foods. And he said, don't worry, this isn't forever, just for a little while. And then when your gallbladder's working well again, we can slowly integrate these foods back in. And he also ordered blood work, a whole bunch of blood work to make sure that there wasn't any other kind of underlying thing causing my gallbladder to not be working right. And I thought, all right, you know, what the heck, give it a try. So I really committed. I did the supplements. I cut out all the foods. I ate a very boring diet for a couple months. And I think he had me come in like 2 weeks later and then a month later. And I will tell you what, my stomach pain went away completely. I could eat, by the end of it, could eat whatever I wanted. No stomach issues. I just felt so much better. And it just in general felt a lot better. I will say he did do a few actual chiropractic adjustments, like pop my back, crack my neck. I think did a couple things on my legs. So he did do some traditional chiropractic work, but he did all of this other stuff and it worked so well. I remember telling my husband and my dad what he had done, and they were just like, okay, weird, but do you think it's helping? And after a couple of weeks, I was like, no, like this guy is really onto something. This is really helping. And so ever since then, since 2019, 2020, I have been converted to chiropractic care. And it just is so wild to me that medical doctors don't use these techniques, or most don't, but a chiropractor can. Like, it was mind blowing to me. It still kind of is. So I learned from that chiropractors can do supplement stuff, nutrition stuff, muscle testing. They also do like muscle work on like fascia. It's not just cracking bones. So then a couple of years later, the stomach issue started coming back. And I hadn't seen him since. So I went in and he put me on some supplements. I don't think we even had to take out any foods this time because it had like just come back. And I was like, yo, we're not doing this again. So went back to him, got it fixed again very easily. And so now there are lots of times that I'm like, maybe the chiropractor. So I'll give you an example. One thing that I did not know is that when you have a C-section, that's how your baby is born, that can cause some challenges for the baby. So I had a C-section, and from what I understand, at least, when babies do not go through the birth canal, their heads don't get squeezed, obviously, because they're C-section. And that can cause their palate on the roof of their mouth to not form optimally, basically. And so also, they just don't, when they're not squeezed through the birth canal, like several things can happen. And I'll get to some of these later. But when my daughter was born, we pretty quickly realized that she had some pretty bad reflux. She didn't always spit up, but she would get really uncomfortable. And sometimes she would spit up a little bit, but you could just you could smell the acid on her breath. And she was very uncomfortable and she had really bad gas and she was an uncomfortable baby for the first few weeks of her life. And I thought, you know what? I've seen things about people taking their baby to the chiropractor. So I went to a different chiropractor that specializes in working with infants. And she walked me through everything they were going to do. They do not adjust babies like they adjust adults. They're not going to crack them. That would be very bad. They do really light pressure on certain pressure points, really light stretching. This chiropractor actually did a little bit of red light therapy over her stomach, and she was loving every second of it. She was just like, ooh, ah, with all of the stretches. And then by the end of it, she was sound asleep and happy as could be. She slept so good that night. And then I believe I took her back twice a week for maybe 3 weeks to a month. And her stomach issues, her reflux and her gas got a lot better. And they were good, But then she started spitting up a lot, like projectile spit up. It was not fun. Actually, I was like afraid every time she'd eat. I'd be like, okay, like put a cloth on, get a trash bag over you because she might projectile spit up on you. So I went back to Dr. Quinn and I said, hey, I know you have worked with babies. I saw something on your social media. Can you help me with this? And he said, yeah, absolutely. Bring her in. So all he did is he did some very light kind of massaging and pressure on her skull, because obviously babies' skulls are like very malleable because they have the soft spots and they haven't fully, their skull isn't hard all the way around yet. And then he put a glove on and put one of his fingers on the roof of her mouth and like very gently massaged it. And I said, okay, you got to tell me what you're doing. And he said that he was basically adjusting her palate so that when she was sucking to get milk out of a bottle, she wasn't swallowing as much air. And it was like a cleaner latch. And I was like, genius. That makes total sense. If you like suck down a lot of air, as adults, we're going to burp a lot, but she would spit up. The air would just come back up and she spit all the milk up. And so we saw him 2 or 3 times and she never spit up like that again. Not once. She would have like little tiny spit ups here and there, but the projectile spit up was gone. And again, I was like, how is this not common knowledge? Like, how as a society do we not know these things? Why is no one telling us this? And some of this is fairly new, but some people have known this stuff for a really long time. So again, just crazy to me. And then now, more recently, this is something that we're actually going through right now in real time. My daughter started daycare. And as you know, if you have children, when they go to daycare, they get sick. It's just like a little cesspool of snot and grimy hands, and everyone's like putting their mouth on everything. So if one gets sick, they all get sick. And she has had now 3 ear infections in 2 months. So the first one came up and I was like, yeah, it happens. The second one was not too long after. And I was like, I don't love how this is trending. Then the third one happened and I was like, we're not doing this. There has to be something to fix this. And we had taken her to her pediatrician every time. What do you know? They put her on antibiotics. And I am not saying antibiotics are inherently bad. So don't come at me. And everyone needs antibiotics at some point in their life. There are things that would kill you if we didn't have antibiotics. Great, wonderful, pro-antibiotic. What I am not pro-antibiotic is when you have to be on them long-term, or you're on them over and over again, or if you really don't know if something's viral or bacterial and you just give the antibiotics just in case. I don't love that. Yes, again, I understand sometimes you don't have a choice. And you know what? We took the antibiotics all 3 times because it's scary when you're a parent and your child can't verbalize what's wrong. They can't tell you what's wrong. And so I was like, I mean, yeah, I guess like give me the antibiotics because I don't want it to get worse. And like, mom anxiety, oh my God. And then she has hearing problems and blah, 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 whatever. But after we got home, I was talking to my husband and I was like, look, there's another route for fixing this. I know there is. I don't know what it is yet. So I went to a Facebook group that I'm part of with a bunch of like other holistically minded parents. And I was like, yo, my kid has had 3 ear infections in 2 months. What can I do? So I'd already started with a homeopathic remedy, just an oil in her ear. It's a mullein oil, which is like, I think, is it garlic, or there is garlic in it, I believe, and a couple other things. And basically it's just supposed to help reduce inflammation in the ear canal. So if it's so inflamed that fluid can't drain, whatever, it's supposed to help with that. Nothing crazy. So I said, I've started that. We've done the antibiotics, but I don't want her to keep being on antibiotics. And a bunch of people responded and they were like, go to the chiropractor, go to the chiropractor. And I was like, really? Here we are again, with the chiropractor. So I got some recommendations And I looked up one chiropractor, and they actually had an entire section on their website about pediatric chiropractic care and how they work with children with recurring ear infections. And I was like, who knew? Who would have thunk it? And so I made an appointment. And basically, what I learned is that adults have, so our eustachian tubes are tubes in our ears. When we're adults, they're more vertical. Once our ears are, like fully formed, grown, whatever, and they can drain fluid a lot easier. But when kids are little, like toddlers and babies, say they get a cold and have a runny nose or a sinus infection, and fluid builds up in their ear, their eustachian tubes are immature and more horizontal. And so it's much harder for the fluid to drain like it should. So if fluid gets stuck in the ear, it's like a dark, wet, warm environment, bacteria grows and hence the ear infection. Now, a lot of ear infections are viral, but they can be bacterial too. If it is bacterial, you get the antibiotics. So anyways, we went to the chiropractor yesterday. I took my daughter and he explained all of that to me. And then I should have looked up the term for whatever it is that the chiropractor uses. I've had it used on me. It looks like a little tiny, I don't know, gun with like a rubber ball on the end, and they press it down and it like bumps you and like gives pressure to a certain area. So again, my daughter's 14 months old. He didn't actually adjust her, like crack anything, but on the atlas on the back of the head, kind of where your skull and your neck meet on each side, he was like, yeah, there's like a lot of fluid buildup there. So what I'm going to do is use this thing, whatever it's called, and that's going to apply some pressure to each of her atlases. And then he did a couple other spots on her back. And he said, all right, you guys are good to go. And I was like, that's it? And he said, yeah, that's it. Come back tomorrow. We're going to do this again. And then we'll probably have you come in once a week, maybe twice a week for a while until we've gotten her body all adjusted and everything's moving correctly. All of the fluid is draining correctly, and she shouldn't have any more ear infections. And again, just mind blown. And I was like, man, I should just go to the chiropractor for everything, because apparently they fix everything. So I'll give you an update on how the ear infections are going at some point, but I'm really hoping that this knocks them out, because I don't want to see my little baby have ear infections. And also when she has ear infection, she doesn't sleep. And that's just sad for me personally, because if she doesn't sleep, I don't sleep. Other things that I've gone to the chiropractor for. So I will tell you, I did this way too late in the game. My daughter was breech, and I think I started going at like 36 weeks, 35 weeks to the chiropractor to see if doing adjustments would get her to flip head down. It's probably a little late in the game. Also, she was in such a strange position that I don't know if anyone could have gotten her to flip, but there are lots of chiropractors that work with pregnant women who have breech babies, and they're wanting them to flip so that they can have a vaginal birth, not a C-section. I've gone for, when I was pregnant, I had sciatic nerve pain. That was more traditional kind of chiropractic. Just so many things. And another interesting thing I learned is that there have been several studies done that show that kids and adults that get chiropractic care regularly are sick way less often. Again, it's just like if your body is aligned, then all of your lymphatic drainage pathways are more open. Your body can work mechanically like it's supposed to. There's less stress on the body. And so you just get sick like way less often, which is cool. And, in addition to all of this like other holistic stuff that chiropractors do, there are chiropractors that really just focus on like the musculoskeletal system, and they're just doing traditional adjustments, stretches, muscle work, that kind of stuff. And it does feel great. I love going to get my whole back cracked and my neck popped. So if you're only interested in traditional chiropractic, like it doesn't hurt to go. Obviously, make sure you do your research and like you're going to a good chiropractor. They have good reviews. Maybe you know someone who's seen them, because there's bad chiropractors out there, just like there are bad regular doctors and therapists out there. But do your research. Make sure you go to a chiropractor that knows what they're doing. But they can just do so many things. So yeah, I think that's really all I've got. I just wanted to let you guys know this stuff because I didn't know, and it's been incredibly helpful in my life. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for listening to me talk to myself for I'm not sure how long, but thanks for listening to Mind Body Besties, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly reset. If you loved hanging out with us today, subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share this with a friend who could use a little calm and connection too. This show is for education and inspiration, not medical advice. To learn more or connect with us, check out the show notes below. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, and your heart.